It's Stephanie again for Apex Languages with another edition of Grown Up Grammar. Not only have we made it through the first month of the year, but today is game day and Groundhog Day. That's a very scary word, isn't it? Say it with me. Punxsutawney. Punxsutawney Phil is our national weather groundhog, and today he did not see his shadow, which, in theory, means that we will have an early spring this year. Groundhog Day is a strange, highly unreliable tradition, and we certainly do not need anyone to tell us here in Raleigh that winter's almost over. I'm not sure that it ever really began this year. Nonetheless, there you have it. As for game day, I am referring, of course, to the Super Bowl, which I'm sure very few of my international viewers even care about. Me personally, I'm just in it for the junk food and commercials. Another strange American tradition. If I can steer your attention back to grammar, though, today we're going to talk about countable and uncountable nouns. We've been talking the last couple weeks about articles, and so by now you should know that the indefinite article refers to a and un. Okay? They are only used to describe nouns that are singular and countable. So now let's talk about what I mean by countable. Countable nouns, in theory, are nouns that can be counted. So a dragon, a snake, a horse, a sheep, a dog, a pig, a firework, an explosion, a word. Or you could see here a melon, a lime, a lemon, an orange. Okay, so I can count them. All these things I can count. There is one melon, a melon. There are 7 oranges. So this is an orange. Nonetheless, we would say fruit. Fruit is an uncountable noun, and so we don't use a with it. Okay? Now, why is that? Well, a lot of uncountable nouns are that way because the speakers think about them as groups. So, fruit, meat, seafood, right? So that you have um, a fish, right? You have a chicken, you have a melon. But when we think about these concepts together, we we consider them uncountable because it's a group. Ice. You might have an ice cube in your drink, but if we're just referring to the idea of ice, a bunch of different ice cubes together, okay, we're not being specific. It's not an ice cube, it's ice in general. So we call it ice. Sand. When you go to the beach, you look out at all the sand, and you're not thinking about the individual grains of sand. You're just thinking sand in general as a group concept. Rain. We're not talking about individual water droplets. It's rain. It's this group of water droplets together. Wood. Yeah, you might have a piece of wood, but in general, when you're dealing with wood, you're dealing with more than one piece. Okay, something is made of wood. There's a couple different pieces of wood that were used together to create the entirety. So we've talked about water. Okay, there are words that can be uh, used both countable and uncountable, and water. So, the idea of the general concept of water, water in the ocean, water to drink, okay, water to look at because it's pretty, okay. That's a general concept and that's uncountable. But a water refers to a glass of water. You're becoming more specific. Here's another example. Paper. Okay, paper, When we just say, do you have paper? We're referring to maybe we want a sheet of paper, but the concept, how it's perceived, albeit subconsciously, okay, we're not purposefully, this is just the way that the language has developed, that we consider paper as a sort of a group idea. Okay, so paper, you get the whole sheet of paper when you buy it at the store. Okay, if you want to refer to a paper, the meaning changes significantly. A paper is always an essay. That's weird because it doesn't matter if it's a single page essay or a 20-page essay. Okay, if you say a paper, you're referring to an essay, something that you've written. Okay, now the paper can refer to either, because remember, the definite article the doesn't have anything to do with countable or uncountable. So the paper that I bought at the store, the big old sheet, or the paper that you gave me, the single sheet of paper that you gave me, or the essay. Okay, the teacher is grading the paper. So the is more flexible, but you could see here how general the general concept of paper is uncountable, but if you want to be more specific, an essay, a paper, you use a, and the meaning changes. So there's a good number of words that have that sort of flexibility, and it can be confusing, but when all else fails, just remember this rule, okay, of general. The most general is uncountable, and then when you use it becomes a little bit more specific, and that can vary from word to word, but that's the general rule. Okay, here's another group of uncountable nouns, and it ties into our idea of groups. Okay, so liquids, again, we don't think about individual water droplets. We think of it as a whole concept. Water, milk, tea, coffee, and even things that aren't as liquidy as they could be, okay, but they flow. So honey, uh, cough syrup. I've been very familiar with that recently. Soup, right? It's got little things in it, but it's this idea of something liquidy. Okay, they're all uncountable. Okay, gases, air, oxygen, smoke, and like natural forces. Fire, who knows if it's plasma, okay, but fire, um, e- this, well, fire is one of those words that if you talk about fire in general, the house is on fire, not a good thing, but I went camping and I lit a fire. So I'm not referring to the idea of fire in general, but I'm saying a single contained fire. There's a fire in that glass. So I'm containing the concept down a little bit more. So fire is a little flexible. Weather, okay, and the different types of weather, snow and hail and again rain. Okay, these are uncountable. Magnetism, electricity, okay? We don't think about the individual electrons, we think about the force, and it's uncountable. Another big group for uncountable nouns are just abstract concepts, and so you, you get these things that you just can't touch, and you can't look at them and count them. Um, so these ideas of love, peace, happiness, okay, time, Friday. What is Friday besides happiness? Okay. A lot of proper nouns, with those capital letters, those are uncountable nouns. Usually you don't use a with a countable noun. Stephanie. Nope. Okay. But these are, what is time? You can't touch it. It's an abstract concept. Fun. What's fun? Okay. It's an abstract concept. Soccer. A lot of the sports are abstract concepts. It's the games. Okay. Um, because you're doing these things that you're doing are uncountable because you can't touch them, you can't feel them, and therefore you can't count them. Okay, similar note. Subjects, fields, what do you go to school and learn, right? Science, technology, politics, education, grammar, English. You can't touch them. You can't count them, so they're uncountable, and you do not use a or un. This really is a very complicated issue for a lot of people. I've given you the basic concept, and I'm happy to answer more specific questions that you have. But for the moment, let's just get a little bit of practice before we end for today. Okay, first of all, let's see if you remember, when do you use a and when do you use un? Okay, house, our, unicorn, uncle. A house, a unicorn, un, our, because I don't pronounce the H, un, uncle. Okay, so unicorn, uncle. And now, what about what we learned today? Noun, apple, money, football. Are they countable or uncountable? Well, can you count nouns? How many nouns are in this sentence? How many nouns are in this sentence? Noun and sentence. So you can count them, yeah. Noun. How about money? Money is a group concept. So it's uncountable. You don't use anything in front of it. A dollar, but money, a dollar bill. I hope you have many of those. Okay, but money itself is a uncountable concept. Can you count apples? Absolutely. An apple, don't forget your N. And what about football? Well, I told you, sports are uncountable. However, some sports, football, basketball, baseball, the game is uncountable, but the actual ball itself, those you can count. And so it depends what you're referring to. I'm going to watch football today, but later I will go outside and play with a football. Okay, so the ball itself is countable, but the game is not. That's it for me today. Like I said, I've got a game to watch, okay? So I will talk to you next week or a couple days. Have a great, whatever you're doing this weekend. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you as always for watching. Check out more videos at apexlanguages.com.